campaign the group has ever successfully finished. The first attempt didn't really go well, but I enjoyed this. That said, well, initially there were plans to actually continue this campaign beyond the adventure path against the Aeon Throne. We've decided against that. We think this is a good chapter in the heroes we've made, and the first part of today will be to talk about what they've been doing after, and then maybe in the second part, which might not be in this video but a different one, we'll talk about the next step. But for now, I think we should see what the heroes have been up to after saving the world. Pack worlds, in fact.
Before we go on to individual here, I think it's important to clarify what we did with the rune drive afterwards, because that is something that we all need to have a decision on, rather than just one person saying again and again what happened. So I think there were two schools of thought on this. One was to just destroy it, and the other was to utilize it in some way. I think perhaps having a discussion about it before we start might be a good idea.
I wrote my epilogue with the assumption that it was destroyed, since that's where the majority of the group seemed to be leaning. But I'm open to improvising on the fly if that's not the case.
No, that was my original thought to do as well. So if everyone is on board with that, then we can just go with that. I just wanted to make it clear.
Shove it into a black hole.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we can go ahead then.
We can see how far well Thaddeus does the Kessel run. Get us close to a black hole without dying.
Thaddeus does it in 7 parsecs.
Speeds through it somehow.
Alright, so.
Well, my connection will be spotty for the next half an hour at least, so I suggest that I do not go first.
Alright. Does anyone feel like going first?
Yeah, I will. Just give me like a second. I need to take a drink.
Alright. / finish writing, question mark.
And he wouldn't want to go first.
It's called confidence.
I mean, I would go first, but right now I'm literally staring my dogs out so they don't steal the sweets that Mel's put aside for them.
No, it's fine. I'm ready to go. It's probably a shorter one than anyone is expecting, so I will go with it. So, dear Barnabas, so directly following the events of retrieving the rune drive, Barnabas would of course work with the others to find a way to destroy it. But after that's all done and dusted, he would return back to his kind of one of the many large asteroids in the diaspora, and try to return to his original goal before he set out for Nacondas on the Pride. His first goal was to find a world where all uplifted bears could claim as their home. With the gap erasing all knowledge of their origin as well as where they came from, Barnabas wanted to find a place close to the Pact World system where they would be safe to continue their search for their purpose. A small team of uplifted bear explorers had already found an unpopulated lush planet in a system close by, but the logistical nightmare of being the first settlers on the planet, along with the resistance of some in his society to change, had stifled that effort. As part of his service to the stewards for combating the Aslanti threat, Barnabas leveraged his influence to attempt to establish a colony in similar respects to Nacondas on the planet. Striking a further deal with the data files on Absalon Station to give them data on whatever they found there, Barnabas managed to put together enough investment to bring that dream to fruition, bringing a number of uplifted bears in various fields to smooth over the first few years of settling their new planet. Under the guidance and leadership of Barnabas, the colony flourished, convincing more of the most conservative pockets of bears to join him there. They managed to create a peaceful coexistence with the various animal-like fauna on the planet, something many previous prospectors had failed to do so. Of course, he would invite everyone there annually for dinner to catch up on what they all have been doing since they last saw each other. But during the year, he would ask those same good friends for assistance because running a colony is hard, and Barnabas does not know everything and would be the first to admit that. In the long term, his second goal, to discover pre-gap artifacts to determine who or what created them, prompted him to create a small expedition group with the purpose of finding these artifacts, procuring them, and researching them. Andy's connection to the Arcana Miram was a good foot in the door for Barnabas, where he established a partnership of sorts to ferry relics to them in return for equal access to their research data. Over time, as their group grew into a fully fledged organization, he would hire mercenaries and research groups to handle the growing influx of data. However, Barnabas always put himself at the forefront of everything he did and was often seen leading these expedition groups, sometimes into the vast. Sometimes when Barnabas found himself beset by one too many enemies, a shot would ring out, felling the foe. After the battle, there would be seemingly no sign of the mysterious helper, but only for Barnabas's keen sense of smell, it was hard to not notice the slight wisps of familiar cigar smoke that Barnabas had grown accustomed to during his adventures on the Pride. Those two goals would preoccupy the majority of Barnabas's later years until finally, on one last expedition into the vast, whether by an accident in the drift or something else at play, Barnabas never returned with his team. Rescues were sent out, but the vast is an uncharted and dangerous place. Never confirmed to be fully gone from this world, many hold out hope that wherever he is, Barnabas is leading the charge. And that is your short and sweet epilogue for Barnabas.
I really like it.
Yeah, I think that's a very lovely ending for him.
Is it what he would have? Is it what he would have wanted for himself?
Yeah. He set out what he wanted to do, and wherever he is, if he's still alive, he's probably holding to his principles, and that's what he wanted.
I'm sure that the
Your connection is dying, Sarah.
Who slowed Seraph down?
And he needs to be rebooted.
Press the reboot. Oh,
like him.
we lost Eri.
Yeah.
What?
Aries reconnecting because everyone's sounds robotic.
I think Ari thought that she had connection problems when it's actually Steph having connection problems.
Yeah. Oh wait, actually no. I think we just shifted you. We just shifted server. I think.
Yes, I wanted to see if it would help, dear Sarah.
I'm moving right now, so until it it stops, it's just gonna be how it is.
Yeah, you sound
I
perfect now.
apologize.
So
You
if you
sound
want to
fine.
Oh, good, excellent.
Did you change
that
set?
quickly.
Oh, God.
my.
Who keeps
I
changing?
switched the server.
Yeah,
Ah.
no, the vast could use more people like Barnabas out there.
Yeah.
What did you change it to?
So I have a question then for Barnabas. If
Yes.
one of his motivations was to figure out the past, the awakened bears,
Yes.
did he ever consider approaching the Time Dragon for help about that, or perhaps even using the Rune Drive to go back there and check it out? Or was that something he just from the start said, no, that's wrong?
That is a very good question, because initially Barnabas's thought about the Rune Drive was that it would be a very, very useful tool for technology and research in general, but the fact that they had to go so far to wrest control of it from the Dangerous Empire, it only showed how much that it needed to be destroyed rather than saved, because no matter where it is, if someone wants it, they're going to come get it, and that's going to leave somebody in danger, and that is not something that he himself can decide for everyone else. So that is why he destroyed it or made that decision. As for the Time Dragon, I think it's a fair assumption to make that it would have been a good idea, but given the fact that, for one, he had been almost destroyed by one, and also corrupted by the Time Dragon's meddling, it is something that maybe strayed across his mind once, but was completely just stomped down upon straight away. That was something that was never going to be an option for him.
Okay.
I think there was enough messing of time already.
Just a little bit of messing is too much messing.
Yeah, especially when it affects him.
All right. There are no more questions for Barnabas. Who wants to go next?
I can go. I think I'll go next. So, I actually think it's probably better that I. Okay, Eric's still having problems.
You're all just muting.
Yeah, it's.
We're here. Don't worry.
Eri's saying that she's having issues.
Oh.
That's weird.
Why Discord?
It's the worst time for this to happen.
Literally the worst. You want me to carry on, Eri?
I mean, if you're having a lot of trouble hearing, you can listen to the stream, I suppose.
Yep, stream is
I
on.
don't think we have a lot of delay.
No, it is very quick. In fact, it's made for ultra low latency. Alright, I will carry on. So, yeah, I'll illustrate. Okay, I'll illustrate it as I think it would be better as if it was news stories. So after the group separated, went their own ways, and everybody did their own thing. It's not very long before a news story spreads across the Pact Worlds. Like news broadcasters saying, terrorist Soralia Frame broken out of prison. Eyewitness reports say of a ghost appearing. The death toll is in the dozens. But the few suggest this ghost only killed guards who prevented its inexorable path into the prison. A large power-armored individual aided this ghost, seemingly keeping guards in check and ripping doors open. By the time reinforcements arrived, the vessel that had brought the ghost and mech had left with everybody, including the terrorist. The vessel was identified as an Interceptor-class ship with heavy modifications, believed to be owned by a long-dead crime boss from Akiton. A few weeks passed with no further insight. Nobody really knew what had happened, and the talk died down. Then a new story erupted. High-ranking official Lucius Farn has been assassinated. All armed personnel are on the chase. A man in dark clothes and a large rifle has been seen running through the streets of Absalom Station towards the docks. The chase is soon as desperate a struggle of security rushing around trying to find this man. He appears long enough for cameras to get a shot and then disappears. The chase lasts an hour until a large ship around the size of the Pride, but not it obviously, boosts out of a dock. narrowly avoiding dozens of ships in its hurry. The packed world warships, always around Absalom Station, turn their massive guns. It dodges and rolls, taking glancing blows, breaking the line of ships, and explodes. A direct hit from a capital plasma array. Debris floats away into the void. Perhaps a post-edited target down is spoken over a simulated radio. Chaos returns to order once again. About 3 days later, from an unknown source, each one of the group will get a long-distance message. He had it coming. 30 years. Watch the news. It'll be harder for them to get rid of me than a little battleship. Sure enough, the next day, an assassination in Vest Space, with details of dirty deals left behind. Then, an admiral, with his plans of selling out to the Aslanti. Rumoured reports of illegal slave hub found and liberated. Stories like these died down to a trickle over the years, corruption ever present. Occasionally in your travels, like Barnabas experienced, was a glimpse of a rifle or a smell of cigar smoke. Or, in your darkest hours, unknown help. Then, some 40 years after the adventures of the Pride, the stories stop. The people have forgotten who the ghost was, and the strange conspiracy podcast in the depths of Absalom speak of how the ghost fought the man and had been silenced. But maybe you just finally had a vacation. And that's Thaddeus.
I really like that.
That is about as Thaddeus an epilogue as one could possibly be. I love it.
Did he end up settling down when he got old, or?
Yeah, that's the idea. He did what he could do, and when he just got too old or too fed up, he just relaxed and chilled out. He did not go back to Akaton, though. That place was a shithole.
Is the Vindicator still in the garage somewhere, or has it been
Well, nobody's ever seen it.
too fast now for that?
Gotta go fast.
I mean, he didn't escape Epsilon Station in the Vindicator, did he?
No.
Did Thaddeus end up like teaming up with his mom? Did he take after her or something, or was it like a one-time rescue?
No, I think it
before leaving us.
Yeah, I think it was a rescue to ultimately like have her help him because she had done sort of thing and she was good at it, and he wanted to bring the bad people to justice, and his sort of justice was quite permanent.
A comment from Isa. Did Thaddeus ever find a waifu for him in his older ages?
Things might have slowed down later on. Maybe that was the reason. Maybe he got a chance to find a little bit of happiness, and maybe he went on trips, and it just so happened that the assassinations happened while he was out of town.
The strong alibi.
Well, nobody could ever pin it to him. I mean,
no.
So he decided not to go for Sedona's offer to work with the stewards, presumably because more freedom that way? Or did he actually maybe work with the stewards occasionally?
I think the prison... I like to think that the prison reinforcements were slow in coming, probably from a bit of Sedona tweaking, and to pay that back, he probably did a bit more of their dirty work, stuff that they would never want on record.
Yeah, nothing official.
Nothing official, no, never.
It just happened that you sort of work for the same things occasionally.
Yeah. It's just it was a good coincidence that high target that they couldn't quite pin anything on just so happened to get shot in the head.
Yeah, never hurts to have friends in high and low places.
Yeah, I really like the idea of that as being like a guardian angel or guardian ghost, I guess, for everyone.
He's got a lot of free time.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of him just like chilling somewhere with his foot on the table, and he hears like over the radio like some stories, like another news story, and he kind of recognizes one of us. He's like, "Oh, god damn it!" Goes, gets his rifle. It's like, he's gonna need a hand.
Speaking of news stories, perhaps I should go next.
By all
Go
means.
for it.
Go for it.
So I want to set the scene first, just to give the idea of what where we are, because we're all now sitting in our couch, watching a hollow screen. Us, not our characters, certainly. We're in a living room, standard as they come, space living room, some stars out of the window, but nobody cares about that. Because on the hollow screen is a human woman dressed nicely and speaking in front of a big building whereupon it says Lost Worlds. The room is quiet. The other viewers are sitting entirely still. A tense atmosphere, perhaps. The woman speaks. Jacques Pierre was a friend to all peoples, but most of all he was a friend to those who needed someone. His passing is a loss not just to us who knew him, but to the Pact Worlds as a whole. I thought a lot about how to best memorialize him, but in the end, I've decided to do it as he did throughout his life, by his actions. Many of you undoubtedly know his life. For those who don't, we have the book Spineless but Brave in the gift shop. Sorry. Jacques Pierre's life began on Verces, where he was hatched as a ward of the state. He quickly rose to work for the security services of Verces, and during a period of extended leave, he learned of the collapse of his homeworld. This discovery marked him strongly, as he had always imagined visiting a world where he would not be an outsider. Now he knew that he never could. At first, he clung to what little he could find of his home, but due to the constraints of his situation, he was forced to leave it and let go quickly. Shaq spent the years after his return to the Pack Worlds assisting his fellow agents, helping them find some closure in their own small ways. After this, he returned to Verces, turning himself into the authorities. The trial that followed concerned his actions in Aslanti space, and although the stewards offered to take full responsibility, Shag went in front of a closed jury. We cannot know the details of the trial, for they have not been released still. But in the end, the jury found that Jacques Pierre acted as the law would demand of someone of his station in his situation. What we do know, however, is that Jacques Pierre never returned to the stewards, or to work as an agent or operative again. Rather, he took a position in Versailles law enforcement, a small job. After 12 years as an honorable officer of the law, he was promoted to an administrative position, exchanging his badge for a desk and an office. Here he remained for many years, dutifully working to ensure that the officers on the ground had the best support they could have. It was in these years that Jacques Pierre was brought to the attention of the media. The first recording we have of him is a series of motivational and educational videos aimed at troubled children and particularly at children growing up on non-native planets. Soon, however, followed a holo program, Jacques Pierre Case Files. Decades passed, and Jacques Pierre grew to be a cult icon before gaining popular appeal with the holo game adaptations of his early police work. On Jacques' 100th birthday, he had a net worth of several million credits. He had started 3 charities and had already starred in a score of holograms, games, and even a musical. The next century of Jacques Pierre's life was focused on helping others, however. He invested, for the first time, in the Lost Worlds theme park, a park with the mission to allow visitors to experience the many worlds that are now lost to us. His own homeworld was painstakingly recreated in several large installations to the point where even sustainable populations of rewilded animal species could be established. 30 years ago now, Jacques Pierre included the planets lost in the most recent War of the Swarm, and also the planets we sadly cannot find after the devouring. This, as you know, led many people who escaped the disasters to come to the parks, visiting them and wanting to help preserve what they could. This massive support and influx of interest led to the reformation of the Lost Worlds theme park into Jacques Pierre's legacy, the Lost Worlds Project. We at the Lost Worlds Project have now for 26 years been restoring worlds wherever possible and replicating them on barren planets where impossible. To date, 4 worlds have been restored fully, 8 are partially restored, and we have 12 more in the pre-restoration program. When I asked Jacques Pierre how he managed to accomplish so much in his life, he always said that the thing he had that other people might not have was time, luck, and good people around him. In the end, Jacques Pierre was offered life extension, but he declined. He said that he had gotten to return worlds to those who had lost them, and that was more than he had ever hoped for. However, his long life had let him make many friends and companions, and in his last days he often spoke fondly of seeing them again in the next world. We all got to have Jacques Pierre for 233 years. A memorial service will be held tomorrow with speakers from across the Pact Worlds. The holoscreen shifts as a video host appears. Tomorrow, the entire ceremony will be streamed live right here. As for today, we will begin with a full anthology of Jacques Pierre's media appearances, culminating in our own goodbye bye to him next week. Up now is the 212-year-old classic trilogy Against the Aeon Throne, starring Jerome Henry Chiron as Jacques Pierre. The screen shifts again to a title screen, and the movie begins. The room shifts slightly. Someone coughs. Another person asks who's up for popcorn. You would have worked tomorrow, but given the news, you don't care. For tonight, and tomorrow at least, you will watch and remember the life of someone who changed worlds.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
I like that.
Yeah.
Strong epilogue so far, guys.
Strong.
Yeah,
Very strong.
the bar has been set very high. Wow.
There you go.
It's
I
not our
could only
first radio.
hear half of that one, so still more than I've heard of anyone else's epilogue. So
It's also not a competition.
It's
No,
true.
it's not. It is a
I
celebration
don't know if I
of
should
the
go to
finishing of the
class.
campaign.
Mm. What were you saying, Harry?
That was really nice, Manikai.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
The only question I have is how you wrote that.
I didn't have anything this morning, so I went out and stuck my feet in the water and sat there for 45 minutes, I think. And then I went home and wrote. So, yeah, I don't know. At this point, I've role played enough that I can sort of be a character and just.
Yeah. Sometimes it just sort of rolls into itself once you start.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's how I find
I
it.
figured. I mean, something I thought about is that again, Stelliferas become so old. Their lifetime is so incredibly long,
I forgot
which
about
means
that.
that the whole idea that his life would be like his life would be more than just what happened in the campaign.
Hmm.
And I really wanted to make that
definitely.
apparent that is certainly a moment that's important, but it's also a moment that can't really be spoken about. It was agent work inside of enemy space. Like you just don't go to another nation and begin killing their military and raiding their prisons and stuff. So, from beyond that, he just had a sort of normal career as a police officer for a while, doing the good thing, and ended up catching a little bit of influence. Those sort of like, I'm Jacques Pierre, don't smoke, kids videos turned into something greater. And over time, that sort of slowly escalated. Another thing is that when you live for that long, at some point, you will be really good at what you do. And slowly, especially when other species don't, you'll become almost a celebrity just because you've been around forever.
I really like the idea of like a young uplifted bear from Barnabas's colony being cast as Barnabas and then having to do that research and like, oh wow, this is what it was like when my people didn't have a home, and then sort of like
now we do have a home.
playing out the part next to the main characters of Jacques Pierre and
yeah.
How like accurate some of it would be and how horribly inaccurate some of it would be.
We don't know why Jacques Pierre started with Power Arbor, but we'll just say he did.
Yeah, Rouge Petit is just edited out of the story completely. She doesn't serve a purpose. She's just annoying. Speaks to the truth more if.
That was nice.
Oh God, looks like
Yeah.
Geez, looks like we lost Ari again.
Yeah, she's coming back. She's restarting her internet.
It is, I feel your pain, Ari. Oh, especially yesterday during the session, my internet was giving up the ghost.
We've had that with Jonas a lot when there's like really bad weather.
Yeah.
His internet would like constantly give out.
Worst part for me is if something happens, it takes like 10 years for anyone to notice out here. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you live out in the middle of nowhere. That'll take a while to get to.
Yeah, it's like, sorry, we don't have anybody coming around there for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll have a tech come out next year between 1 hour window, and if you're not there, then I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait another 5 years.
Azakawa and Entropino, I really liked yours. Okay.
Yeah, if there's any questions, ask.
Yes. I don't know.
It feels so like it ended just how it had to. I don't have.
It feels,
I'm sure I'll think of something. But
yeah, you encompass so much. I feel like my questions take too long to form.
Yeah, and there's hundreds of years that. Like,
Ari's back.
There's like 200 years where our characters aren't even there, really.
Yeah.
250 if you count a count chip. It's, Soki.
Long time. Yeah.
Ari, do you want to go next while we still have you?
If we still have you?
I can see the icon, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Hello?
Oh, hey, Ari.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Chip.
Are you here?
I mean, we'll see.
Okay.
Okay, go while you're still here.
Yeah.
I have 3 out of 5 bars, so that's a huge improvements. I just have to open my document again.
Yes.
Okay.
While we have you.
It's like fine all day, but right around this time, no.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Also, good for all of the chatting before the stream, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
Mhm.
problems,
Perfect. Well,
you know?
they're like, oh, Sarah's back. We have to kill someone.
I feel a little upset that I was next in line, but you know, that's how it is. All right.
Now top of the list.
I think Virgin Media are too afraid of annoying me
Pretty sure
anymore.
it goes by alphabetically.
You could destroy them, Hollery.
I've shouted at them so much, I don't get throttled anymore, even with my stupid amounts of uploading.
Nice.
Let's see what happens to Chip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, I guess, compared to what I have heard of the other epilogues, you know, a lot of robot sounds. No, we're going back to right after the crew still together on the Pride and on their way back to the Pack Worlds. We open with a scene. We see room, and she takes the camouflage device that she got by Gless. And the next scene we see is that we see Andy walk out the door. And we proceed to see Andy walk through the ship and into the cellar, where, of course, Rose Petit is kept. And when she goes in, she says, "But she owns 3 faces!" And in there, she sees herself, or, well, more like Andy is standing there.
Because as Chip closes the door behind her, she turns to face Andy, standing in front of the cell block, cocking his head at the version of himself that just walked into the room. I wasn't aware that I'd be in here twice today. Did I use the rune drive to appear here in my future, or...
There's a pause. And Andy, or Chip as we now see it, says, "Look, Andy, we both know you'll never do it. Not now, not in the past, and not in the future either."
It doesn't have to end like this, Chip. Not with more killing.
Yeah. You're right. It doesn't have to. But it will. You chose to forgive her, or at least deal with her, but you do not have the authority to make that decision for all of us.
Station said had no authority. It was a lawless hellhole ruled by a big bad dragon because no one can beat him down until somebody did. She and the others did not have a fair trial. That was a lynch mob. I chose to keep them alive if they could help us find our friends. And she did. We had no idea where to look for them before she told us about Cell Block J. And Tyr wouldn't be here right now. Sedona wouldn't be here. And neither would the rune drive. Her life was a bargaining chip, but it's not ours to just take away anymore. She's not a threat anymore.
But she's still a bitch, though.
Oh, I'm not arguing with you on that one.
Look, Andy, it all sounds so good when you say it. It's all just probabilities at work here. I'm happy that we found Sedona, even though she is kind of rude. And I'm thrilled to see Tyr again. But in a calculation, that's just 2 lives against a world of who knows how many. No, Andy. You're young, some teeth are too rotten to fix. And if you can't fix them, better remove them before they start becoming a bigger problem.
If knocking them out could bring back the lives she's taken, she'd be dead. If shooting her brains out right now was the only way to stop her from taking more lives, she'd be dead. But it's not just 2 lives we saved by keeping her. The rune drive was threatening the entire Pact World system. We stopped a genocide thanks to her information, but killing her now, it doesn't protect anyone. She's already neutralized and going crazy in there. She's never going to be free. She's never going to be in charge. She's trying to keep a grasp on something, anything, and not having it is driving her mad. Killing her would be a mercy at this point. And she doesn't deserve that. And neither do you.
Chip shakes her head. You can't guarantee that, Andy. Not your whole life. We could have lost her just now when we lost our ship. You're competent, I'm sure. But there will be a chance, if not many. And he goes a little closer to him, I'm not willing to give her even one. There's only one way to achieve that.
No. We can hand her over to the stewards. You're right, keeping her on this ship is not safe. Not forever, and certainly not in the condition it's in now.
The stewards? Ha! So they can make another agreement to save her from her deeds for some kind of information? No.
They have better facilities that they can keep better. It's their actual job. We don't just kill prisoners, and if she does have information that can save lives down the road, isn't that worth letting her be slightly more cushy than we'd like her to be in her prison cell?
You're right. You're right. We don't. It has been, well, I don't know if honor is the right word, but it has been good to serve with you. I shall retire now, or after this job, or before, if that fancies your future steward bone more. I'm sure you can make a career there. You have the skills. As she says this, she looks a little, maybe sad. Who knows?
Chip, this isn't killing in self-defense. We're not fighting to save the universe anymore. At least not from this. We've won already. What you're doing now, what you want to do, that's murder. I haven't agreed with Jacques Pierre on everything, but he's right about one thing. Killing when you don't have to, it does something to you. It gnaws at you. I don't care at all about Rouge Petit, and I certainly haven't forgiven her. I care about you. I don't want you to do this to yourself. You say you're going to retire like that means you're already gone, but you still have a life to live, projects to work on, and whatever you want to do for the rest of your days. If this is what you've decided and you can't live with it otherwise, then I won't stand in your way. I'm done trying to save her. But I hope that you'll just think about it before you make your decision. Andy puts his hand on Chip's shoulder as he passes her, giving her a faint smile. He walks out of the room, leaving Chip alone with the chained Stillefaris.
Yeah. Chip looks after Andy, shakes her head slowly. Gosh, Chip, you're really getting old. You forgot to secure his possession first. What a rookie mistake. Oh, well done. She turns to the cell, throws Richie in it. But I've already done my thinking a long time ago. This one, well, it was pretty easy. Andy, he'll be alright. And with this, maybe Jack Pierre can forgive him. Hopefully. She shakes her head again. Oh, Chip, are you justifying to yourself now? It really is time for retiring. She clicks a button in her hand, and the screen parts in two for a moment, showing us that through the cameras in the cell, we still see Andy in there talking. We switch back, and we see Chip in her original form. He looks at the chains to the Ferris. expecting someone else, are we? You did really good, you know. You might have been able to escape in a few years' time, if not before. But you see, this was decided a long time ago. I'm from a pack in Arkiton, you see. I guess you wouldn't really know anything about that place. She moves in and looks Rospity right in the eyes. If you did, you would know that if you fuck with one of us, you fuck with all of us. But don't worry. I'll make sure you don't get to hurt any of mine and make that mistake twice. She raises a handgun. Just know, it's not business. It's personal. And we hear 3 shots, and we do the classic shot of the ground, and where we slowly see like blood trickling on the floor. And then the camera fades to black. Then on the screen, text shows up and says, on Nacondas, 2 years later. We start with the sound of idle chatter, with some space-free music in the background and some rattling of pots and pans. We see a dim-lit room with a few wooden tables and an assortment of plates. Every now and then, they look up at the electric clock and smile a quickly hidden smile. From the back room comes Yusoki, with grey-stained fur and thick glasses balanced on her nose, hammering 2 lids together. What is this? It is past 8! Get out! Get out! You think I don't have any other things to do, just because I'm retired? She steps over to one of the tables. Come on, hurry along! The people excuse themselves and snicker, and start with excuses like, oh, also go in good food and company, and flattery won't get you anywhere, dear. Nugget! From the back rooms come Nugget, a lower version of himself now, and runs to the door, balancing a plate of cookies on his head. All right, 1 chocolate chip for the journey each, and then get out, Chip says, trying to keep her voice stern. She walks behind the counter and watches the door, and as the last person leaves, Nugget's whip tongue shoots out, whips the last cookies off the plate, and munches them. Chip fetches a paper bag from under the counter, keys in the other hand, and steps over 2 steps from the door. Her ears twitch a bit, and under her hanging cheek pouch we see a hidden grin as she waits. We wait for a little bit, and then we hear quick drums of footsteps. Chip takes the last few steps to the door, rattles with the keys, right as the doors open. Sorry, I'm late. Is there anything left? A female says. Oh, hi, Himi. I was just about to close up here. You do know we close at 8, right? Chip gestures. Chips, food is great. Go home at 8. I know, Chip. I'm sorry. I was just... Yes, I'm sure. Well, lucky for you, I had some leftovers lying around. I put in a doggy bag. For Nugget, of course. She holds out the bag, and we can see that towards Chip on the bag is a little sticker on a note, reading, good work. Here you go. Now hurry along. I'll be tired, you know. Himiko thanks her and walks off. Chip stands in the door, watching her go down the road towards the colony. All right, now it's just you and me, boy. Fetch the plate, will you? Nugget picks up plates and runs in the kitchen to dump them in front of a set of robot arms that are frantically washing plates. He comes up, it puts down the plates, shakes the hands. From the front room, we hear Chip's voice. Oh, stop it, you two! Back to work! Chip shows up in the door to the kitchen and puts a hand on Nugget. Nugget supports her through the kitchen and into a small pantry-looking room. She bows down, moves a pot, and clicks a button, and a hatch in the floor opens up, revealing a staircase. Oh, remind me again why we went stairs. Chip mutters as she walks down it slowly. Oh, God, my old bones. All right, time to get to it. We have limited time. We'll out and see a dark, sparsely lit room with lots of cables and weird-looking machines. You recognize part of one, being an old starlight cannon, now strapped with a bunch of wires. On a board, you see a diagram showing a building with a net of power cables running out from it like a spider web. Cut back to Chip, tools in hand. Grumbles as he adjusts something, gives it a whack with the other hand. All right, all strapped in. The clicks a button on a board, and we hear the static of an old-time recorder. 20th time. Adjustments made to circumvent previous attachment problems, as well as increasing power output and the converter's efficiency. I hope. All right, Nugget. 1 minute. We focus on Nugget as we hear Chip mumble and bustle about with something. All right. Be ready. Go, boy. Nugget pulls down the lever, and we hear a surge, and everything goes black. We see a little orange light slowly fall, and we hear the clatter of wood against the floor. Darkness. Then 2 blue lights light up, and we cut to black. And then, credits.
It was very good. Although I have to admit, I didn't see any of that coming.
I was floored. I have
Finally
questions.
finally turned herself into a robot. I love it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe she blew up.
I know who she blew up in terms of their brains. That's for sure.
Yeah.
A question: Do we see like I don't know, like obviously we know what happened, but you know, I want to clarify: is it Chip disguised herself as Andy to do it
Yeah.
on the cameras?
Yeah, she did.
All right. So everyone, I assume, sees this.
Yes, I mean her original plan was just going there as Andy and shooting him, her. But of
Right.
course, since you met Andy there, she'll probably have to do some video editing later. You know.
Right. Okay.
But basically, the plan is like, well, first of all, she thought this was necessary. She's like, you know, it's the only way to stop her forever.
Yeah.
But also, like, there was the whole thing of Andy being responsible, and she was like, yeah, you know, maybe if I do it as Andy, Jeff Pierre will like let Andy go and live his life without forever holding you accountable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I was just. I'm glad I muted myself because I was like, "Whoa!"
I mean, it was
What
the
just
line,
happened?
it was the line saying it's not business, it's personal.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
like,
that line.
damn.
I'm pretty sure. So basically, that stemmed from me and Ari having just like a private call at one point, just chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were having this discussion, like a bit of a banter back and forth about what should happen. And once that line came out, we were like, all right, this whole discussion is too good to not include.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask because I felt a little bit. This was also you guys' discussion.
Yeah.
And your characters, like.
Yeah.
Cool.
I want to.
I've never had an epilogue that was played.
It was very
yeah.
weird.
I like it a lot.
Against justice.
I want to point out that we've had. This is our 7th epilogue that we've had, and it's the first time that we've ever had 2 players cooperate on one epilogue.
Yeah.
Well, in this way at least, we've had before
In this
people
way,
like
yes.
Yeah, you've had people.
Not like joining,
stories
but like
together.
the 2 people playing an epilogue
It felt
together.
like it needed a discussion.
direct
before.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So-
new. It's good.
Did you guys script this?
Yeah, we basically wrote it out last time after the session.
Yeah.
That is really
When it
cool.
was clear that we would not agree.
Yeah.
But
no,
ultimately, it was like, as a player, I'm like, I'm not going to make that decision for the group. But I wanted it to be clear that Andy was not doing this to protect Rouge Petit. He was doing it to protect anyone who would murder her. Because like Jacques Pierre's attitude in session 1 of killing prisoners, like, really got to him.
Yeah, of
and
course.
it was something that he, wanted to protect.
I just hope
But
that
ultimately, I left the decision with Chip. I personally did not know what would happen once I left the room.
Where he left the room. Yeah, I didn't.
Where I left the
know
room
more.
is where our shared document ends.
Right. Well, following that, then it's a good segue. Then.
yeah.
If anyone doesn't have any more questions into Andy's
Yeah.
adventures.
Totally gonna just gif my way through my reactions. Now
Me too. Me too. I like this.
I'm still on 3G, so I'm not reading. I'm not or downloading
Yeah,
any
good
of them.
call.
I'll look at them later.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take away if there are other questions for Chip.
I can't think of any.
Not right now.
I really liked how it ended, and I expected it.
Yeah.
And I just wish that that Thaddeus could have seen her in a nice little calf. Maybe he did. Who knows?
Did Chip ever go to these communal dinners and stuff that Barnabas invited us to, or leave Naquandus, or did she just retire and make her own? I was gonna say
I didn't
that's all
do
she ever
that.
did.
So
Right. So Barnabas would send out an invite annually to the colony he had made on the new world for himself, to everyone.
No, I don't think Chip. She would probably set a very long hollow message about
something or other. Yes.
Yes. She would be there in hollow form. Maybe they would have a little diagram which they could, adjust the sound of sometimes, which might come in handy.
Do that thing in Star Wars.
Like
yeah.
All right.
Just see the hologram talking frantically and nodding.
That's actually something that I want to know, is that other than Chip, who I'm not entirely sure if Thaddeus wouldn't try and drag along to one year, but does everybody else go?
Go to what exactly?
What was the question, mate?
Does everybody go to it?
His question is Barnabas would invite everyone annually to a dinner to catch up, and his question is, who amongst you would actually go, if any? Or I suppose the question was, who would not go? That's probably the more applicable one.
Andy would go for sure.
I think Jacques Pierre would, as a dinner thing.
Yeah, it's like once a year we go out.
Yeah, find a time,
I mean, again, my epilogue ends 2 years after the story.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Shit. All right.
So yeah.
So it would be the empty chair there.
I mean, maybe. Who knows what happened, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's at
maybe
least
it was
2
maybe.
years of hollow chip before silence.
Maybe Chip is an AI inside Nugget now.
So
Nugget.
So Chip made is it like a chocolate chip?
Oh, those are the cookies. So basically, my idea was I just wanted her to have a eating. And then I was like, oh, nugget and chips, because those are foods. And then I just started the coffee there will be chocolate and a lot of stupid food puns.
Pretty funny.
In case it wasn't obvious, put it.
Yeah, stuff like that. So, and I figured, where better to do it than Naquandus, where everyone owes her favors.
Lots of power.
And also lots of power that she could steal or use for stuff.
Yeah,
so
the
much
electricity
power.
in the air. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no other questions, I do agree. I think therapist.
Isakawa has a question here in the chat. He asks if Chip ever added a stomach and eating mechanics so Nugget could eat.
Oh yes, I mean he did, because of course he needed to also be retired, and when you are retired, you should eat lots of foods. I think it's. I mean, don't ask me how it works. Does
it's
he
just
cook
an
now?
incinerator. It's
Yes.
just
it's probably
incinerator.
an incinerator.
It's just an efficient recycling program.
Yeah.
Chip, she would figure out how to make him able to taste, and then
oh yeah,
add the joy of cookies to the
Yes. Oh yeah, that's programmed in.
Nations on Acondas don't even believe he's a robot. They just think he's a dog.
True.
That's great.
And he's the goodest boy.
Yeah.
Of course.
He is. Oh, God.
Yeah. At least there was no description of how he sat where the shop used to be for years and years.
Oh god.
I considered that. I considered making it Epilogue. There was like, and we zoom in, and there's like a big square stone with etched words in it. Rest in peace, Chip. And there's a sad dog sitting there howling.
Thaddeus would put it down.
Oh,
That would be
Christ.
terrible.
Thaddeus
I
would
was
put
like,
it out his own
no.
fucking misery. Oh, can't
Yeah.
do that.
Don't make dogs sad.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really-
that's what I ultimately I was like, I couldn't do that to Nugget or Chip. It's like, no.
No. And open-ended endings are great.
Fun.
Yeah.
Not that they should always be used, but
It gives me a reason to bring Thaddeus back at any point.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what I had as well. I was like, so it could just be Nuggets, like emergency power going back on, but it could also be a Boba Chip that I can play in the future, so who knows?
Alright.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yes.
Okay. Oh man, the bar has been set so high. It's a little daunting. Whew. All right. Taking off into the drift back to Absalom Station was both a surreal and tense experience for AND1. The shortcut to his once upon a prison didn't inspire the greatest sense of ease for the android. Never until recently had he imagined himself anywhere near that. The 1d6 day journey saw him loitering near Rouge's Petit's cell at first, but following the confrontation with Chip, Andy had extensive talks with Sedona regarding the future of the rune drive. Sedona felt that the rune drive should be placed in the custody of the stewards, which the party had reservations about. And while Andy didn't entirely disagree with Sedona, the trials everyone had to go through just to wrestle it back from Maslanti control showed just how dangerous its connection to the Aeon throne could be. Sooner or later, the Inevitables would start sending deadlier and deadlier forces to finish their job. No, the rune drive had to go, no matter what secrets it might reveal. Just after exiting the drift and seeing the awe-inspiring station ahead of them, Andy sought out Sedona and asked her if the job that she had mentioned on Outpost Z was a serious offer. When she confirmed it, Andy accepted and became a member of the Special Operations Task Force, on the condition that every crew member of the Pride be offered the same opportunity if they desired it. The group had achieved their successes together, and that wouldn't change, even if we were to go our separate ways. That door in particular should not be open to Andy alone. Taking his first steps onto the station was difficult for Andy. Despite the lack of blood or heartbeat, everything inside him was racing. Systems at full alert, survival instincts engaged. Last time that he had been on Absalom Station was during the first killing game, and the only other station he'd been to since had had a second. Stepping foot off the Pride now felt like risking a fall into the abyss of open space with a black hole staring intently at him. It's not going to happen again, he told himself. Cutting yourself off from the world is not the answer. You can't stay on the ship forever. You've got to keep moving forward. It took a deep breath and a friendly paw on the shoulder from the silent and knowing Barnabas, but Andy moved forward into the monument of human achievement, walking the streets of his once and future home. After a grueling debrief at the Bastion, headquarters of the stewards, Andy joined the Special Operations research team. Even with the threat of the rune drive contains, final words had found a permanent resting place inside his head. Angels and archons, divine beings that he had no understanding of, were at war, with potential civilian casualties everywhere in the universe. There might not be anything Andy could do to stop it. Taking them all on directly was a foolish thought. But under no circumstance was he going to leave the people in the dark, now that he knew about the threat. Contracting Thaddeus Frayne for one last ride, Andy flew out to the asteroid where the dragon's death recording had been transmitted to. Inviting Jacques Pierre and Sedona to join him, he sought out anything that could be connected to the Herald of Chaos, fighting for the rights of those lost to the Gap. And what a discovery they made indeed. Upon finding it on the asteroid, Andy discovered that it mostly contained old instruments that could barely be called technology, each with handmade labels displaying information clearly painstakingly discovered and filed by the dragon. A record player? A gramophone? Data journals that were completely incompatible with any reader available in Pact Worlds. And tape? How on earth did that contain data on it, without any traces of magic whatsoever? The Horde contained many mysterious relics, neither relying on the magic of the pre-Gap age of swords and sorcery, nor the technological leaps and bounds that formed the foundation of life as he knew it. True lost treasures of a forgotten, no, stolen age. After returning to Absalom Station with the relic, Andy requested a meeting before the Special Ops Commission. The longer he'd thought about the dragon's cause, the more tragic his situation became in Andy's mind. He had had the right motive, but the wrong mission. The dragon fought to recover the past. Andy sought to protect the future. Using the evidence compiled by the dragon and the dying words that were verified by his and Sedona's exported memories, Andy founded the Second Gap Contingency Unit, a secret division within the Special Operations tasked with compiling and protecting knowledge vital to the Pact World's security and history, in the event that the greater war between angels and demons were to create a second gap. Working with the stewards, as well as a few trusted staff members of the Arcana Miriam, former teachers of Andy's, the SGCU developed a plan to ensure that future generations would be able to arm themselves with knowledge should the calamity happen again. Despite the rune drive's absence, every piece of research data had been recovered from Orlos, the copies of which, combined with the databases available on Absalom Station, provided the team plenty to work on in their lab inside Bastion's fortress. Tyr was absolutely thrilled at the chance to comb through the data from all of Orlos's other research areas, and it proved remarkable what one could achieve when part of a team that's A, not being held against their will, and B, able to access all available data. Weird. Throughout this entire process, Andy could never quite shake the feeling that he was still being influenced by someone who had access to whatever controlled his inner voice. It wasn't rational. Sedona had stripped the software that made it possible and disabled the relevant hardware when she rescued him. Even if she had missed something, there's no way a signal could have reached out towards Nakondis or Atlanti space. But one day, for no particular reason at all, he felt more at peace with himself about the subject. There wasn't any major event that was the catalyst for changing his mind. I guess you could simply call it growing up. He realized that if he was truly free, then all of these ridiculous developments, the dear friendships, what he and his friends had accomplished together, it was all real. His experiences belonged to him. And if he wasn't, then whatever was left of the voters still actively influencing him had all helped out in their own way when it really counted. His actions would be proof that even behind closed doors, people were generally good. Flawed, yes. But something he could live with. Something he could be proud to represent. Over the following months, Station Security received an odd amount of reports of Pact World vessels either disappearing or being decommissioned. To most, the instances were simply part of daily life, but a couple eagle-eyed officers noticed something that made them feel just a little bit off. Digging further into it, however, they would find all the paperwork in order and everything crystal clear where it should be. Mysterious, but just a weird feeling. It had to be. Back on Nakondis, almost a year and a half after the Pride's initial voyage, Chip receives an alert on her datapad that Andy has sent her a holomessage via the drift. Upon opening the message, a small holographic image of Andy stands in front of her, the hologram fading out just under his shoulders. He stands straighter than the last time you saw him, the image of a young person tiptoeing their first steps into adult success. The hologram speaks. Hi, Chip. I know things weren't exactly great the last time that we talked. I'm sorry we haven't been in contact as much lately. We've been working on some really exciting stuff. I can't talk about it over a message, but I think you'd be proud of the work we've been doing. Listen, I need a favor. When I returned to Absalom Station, I kept an eye out for my friends who escaped with me during the first killing game. The ones who never made it off the station. Well, Sedona found them, hiding in the down low, and we're making arrangements for them to travel to Nakonda. They're good people, and they need a fresh start. Now that the colony is the quiet, hardworking place it was supposed to be, well, I guess it could use 3 new colonists now that me and the others aren't there. It seemed kind of appropriate since that's where Sedona thought I'd be safest. She thought it was safe because of how remote it is. But I think it's the safest place to be for another reason. The hologram smiles before looking away, tension creeping into its body. I haven't exactly told them I'm still alive. And honestly, I prefer to keep it that way. What we went through with the captain, Jacques Pierre, and Thaddeus, it puts me so far away from their struggles of trying to stay hidden on the station, even after escaping. They've already mourned me and the others that were lost during that time. I don't want to bring up old pain or cause them confusion. Time to move forward, I think. Sedona hasn't mentioned my name to them. I'd prefer if you kept it that way. Means I won't be coming to visit you anytime soon, but this is for the best. Thank you. You deserve your retirement. I hope that you're driving Ibrietta nuts over there. Here says hello. The message cuts.
Oh,
Yes, and a couple days later, Andy will get a notice or an answer. And we see a hologram show up, but it's really just half of Chip's head, sort of flimmers and turns to the ground, and the camera slowly zooms in on Chip's one eye. Finally, shows her whole face. Ah, it's been a while since I did one of these. Oh, and hello. I got your message, and of course we are always ready to receive new. I'll keep an eye on them, or two. They can live in my shop until they get assigned home. I mean, there's not much room, but I'm sure maybe Nugget will share some of his space. I'll even offer them free food. I mean, given here at Nuggets and Chips, he does a little advertisement spiel. You know, all the food is free, but they will also get free food. Is all. Anyway, I hope you're good. I won't take too much of your time. I hope you're taking care of yourself, cleaning up the software every now and then. I'm sure you guys are working on something great. Just remember to stay focused in reality as well. I know Tia can get a bit, she sighs, excited. Actually, I do have some research I'd like your opinion on. I've sent some over on one of their encrypted channels. When I don't know about I have some really groundbreaking solutions, I think, but well, he will know what it's about. What was I talking about? Oh, here comes Nugget. Let me see Nugget take over the screen and look in. She's like, "Oh, say hello to Andy," and we see he has a big cookie jar in his mouth. It's like, oh, what a good boy! Is it already tea time? I keep hearing more of our stories about. Oh yes, that's important. You talk about it, Britta. Pretty sure, actually, that she was already crazy. I keep hearing stuff about her marriage, and I don't know why she ever married that guy. But, well, if you do come visit one day, I can. Well, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but boy, do I have stuff to tell you. Anyway, I'm busy. It's tea time, and we see her fingers creep closer to the cookie jar, and well, say hi to Pierre if you see him. I miss you all, and yes, I'll see you. Bye. Oh, where's the button again? God, where? All right, we see slowly cuts out, and then we hear a crash, and it fades to black.
Back on Epsilon Station, many months later, the project was finally ready to demonstrate. But the most difficult cell was still ahead of them. Organizing a meeting between the SGCU and the Starfinder Society, Andy was one of many who spoke on a panel inside the Lorespire complex, presenting their research and ideas before the Starfinder Forum, the data files, and the first seeker. Many hours passed in the Hall of Discovery as the SGCU revealed their project to the Starfinders. But the wide eyes of realization that crept over most of their faces was encouraging to Andy. The hardest to convince was Historia 7, the blue-haired, cool-skinned android mechanic who served the data files. She was understandably very guarded about sharing the Starfinder's secrets, her neutral face betraying little of her thought process. "Show it to me," she said. "I reserve the right to weigh in on this matter until after I've had a chance to observe it for myself." "Of course," Andy replied. "I wouldn't have it any other way." Not long after the meeting, Andy, Sedona, and Historia 7 boarded the Starfinder vessel and took off. Within moments of clearing the Armada, they engaged their drift engines and were met with a sight that even got a reaction out of the blue-haired android. Ahead of them stood a monolithic vault of technological prowess. Technically still a starship, but assembled together from many others in the strangest ships from different worlds, forming the base of the retrofitted as extensions, an interconnected series of life support, defense, and data storage mechanisms, creating a vessel for a station large enough to give Absalom a run for its money. "What exactly is it that you've done here?" Historia 7 inquired. "It's a vault. Like I said, we want to preserve as much of the Pack World's knowledge as possibly can. If there's an active war going on between gods and the drift was created by the god of tech, and magic can't pass. Those beings are far too magic. And besides the fact that when the gap occurred, this space right here, it's the best place we have reliable access to that's completely separate from the material plane. Here, they're going to have to get a lot more creative if they want to remove all information about a certain topic. And you built this here without anyone being the wiser? Every starship built into it was either reported missing, scheduled for decommission, or impounded by the stewards," he said. "We've got people from every planetary body in the Pact contributing to the project. Any ship, building, or prefab in the last 27 months that should be scrapped for parts somewhere, those parts are here. Nothing here is unaccounted for, and we're manually bringing copies of everything we can through the drift and uploading it to the databanks. It's been a massive undertaking for the stewards, but it's here. We've imported enough storage space in there to rival the station, and it's only going to grow. We don't necessarily need to bring your AI guidance here, but if we at least had access, if we had copies of the data vaults inside your archive cortex, the data that guidance pulls from, we could preserve knowledge about any and the histories that a secret backup drive ready to reboot the event of a material wipe, so that warriors of the future can take up arms and fight back against those who try to steal their identity. Take aim at the perpetrators with an informed vengeance. Our ancestors didn't get that chance last time, but they can now. They could forever. What do you say?"
I like that.
Yeah, I think that is very Andy. To think so far into the future that he literally creates a vault to be better than the vault that we already have. It's like, Absalom Station, what a load of shit. Let's build something better out of scrap.
It's a backup drive, you know?
Bullshit. I bet it becomes better.
Who knows?
Gets
Maybe
its
it
own
does.
AI. Fuck guidance. She needs some guidance to get better than this.
You know, as far as I can tell, the gap only affected the material planes. So, you know, need a backup somewhere. That's it. That's it.
Chip is so proud.
That was great. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
I like it.
My little boy, grown up.
I felt like I just like thrown on an audiobook. I was just listening.
Put your head on the pillow, go to sleep, listen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Oh, thank you.
That's the one thing that I really enjoy about the epilogue sessions is that it really brings out the creative side in everyone after a long and normally very emotional ride in your character's shoes. For whatever reason, we haven't had anybody cry in the 14 sessions. But I think we've still got a very good basis for our characters and how everybody expands.
We just didn't have time.
Yeah, I think that even with 14 sessions, I think we built our characters and developed them significantly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
it was good fun.
Well, that's everybody.
Yeah.
That's Aeon Throne.
That is. I believe last session we asked Sheep the normal, like, after epilogue stuff. Is there anything that you want to add, Sheep? Or did you have anything planned?
I think everything has been said. Well, what the other? There weren't many notable characters that you would have wanted to want an epilogue for, and those that were important, mostly Ibretta, Tyr, Sedona, Nacondas as a whole, those are covered, I think.
Yeah.
What about Glest?
Oh my god,
Oh,
yes.
Nobody
Gillespie,
knows.
of course, Zed.
Maybe he was assassinated by Thaddeus. He got fed up.
Oh, he's king of Outpost Zed.
Yeah.
Yep.
He has
the-
many secrets.
He certainly
piece of
does. The Reptoids in Aslanti space will certainly continue their crusade against the Aslanti Empire as a whole, with unfortunately limited success. Glest, while a very determined and very smart leader, isn't exactly the most stable, even after he got fixed ever so slightly. Outpost Z, however, is no threat to the Aslanti Empire, which also means that Glest has a long, glorious future ahead of him.
He can call himself the Dragon Lord. You know?
He wouldn't want to draw attention to himself.
No.
That's true.
Have a puppet
Turning
king.
Outpost Z in not just what it was, but also a fairly respectable point to trade information. That's his thing. That's his weapon of choice. One that he wields occasionally. But to fight an empire, that's beyond the poor.
I was
Outpost
gonna
Z.
say, I don't think that that would be enough. But yeah.
You need foot soldiers, which he not quite organized to really get.
Well,
Well,
I'm certainly sad that Aeon Throne campaign's over because I'm sure as hell gonna miss Thaddeus. But I think our next chapter in Starfinder is gonna be very fun.
On to bigger and brighter things.
Brighter.
I mean,
Nice.
do you think there might be a few more words to say about the campaign as a whole?
Of course.
Because now we've played it.
Yeah, what do you think about it? Like, both the premise and the way it was done. Of course, you can't comment on how Paizo presented it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, we've already
yeah.
had that conversation as well.
Yeah,
We-
we've
did.
we've
Very
already had a
recently.
little bit of conversation into it, but I think I know what you're getting at as the story as a whole.
Yeah, the story, not the
Yeah.
campaign.
No, I enjoyed it. It's not, there are certain tropes that are used, but it's not your typical fight against the empire larger than you. There are a lot of twists that you have included yourself, which I can comment on as well. But the story as a whole, it is compact, but at the same sense, it is very enjoyable. Like I don't think there was a point where I had or where I disliked any of it. I think it was a very enjoyable experience all the way through.
Hmm.
I'll say that the story as a whole, which is basically, let's save the people you care about. Oh, there's a rune drive. Let us stop the bad guys from having the rune drive. I was not particularly invested in it. Like I think mostly because I didn't really know Sedona or Tyr or Miss Fulson. Yeah, my character wanted to save Sedona, but I as a person didn't really have much of a connection
Yeah.
to her. Which,
Yeah, I get
you
that.
know, how would you get that? I don't know. Maybe
It's
have an
difficult.
introductionary bit where you have to go and do something with a
Mm.
person
It-
that then gets kidnapped. I mean, it's a little arbitrary, of course, but
It
Um,
absolutely would not have worked with the way the campaign was written, which is one of the constraints of a written campaign. I agree. Like,
we had to go get the rune drive because that was an important thing to do, but it's a MacGuffin thing, right? Like we're gonna get
Yeah,
the
it's
that's
get the thing, save the
that's
world.
the reason we're doing what we're doing. But the really important thing is the journey, right? More so than the
exactly.
goal, of the campaign. As for that, the campaign had an interesting mechanic. Oh, we should try to sneak around and see if we get discovered. But my God, was it hard to figure out how to do things that were not just going in there and killing dudes? Because
Hmm.
even
We
as an
were so
operative,
good
there are
at it.
terribly few things you can do that is not related to killing people.
Hmm.
Just you don't have a map. You don't have any information about who's there or what it is. You know a place, and you know kind of who you expect to find there. And with
You
that
know what you-
information, I mean,
And it's
you know,
geographical.
Can you repeat that, Sarah?
Yeah, no, I was just agreeing with Manikai. You, it felt like all of them were like, yes, you know what you're looking for, and it's geographical location, and that's about it.
it's here. Now go there
Yeah.
and come what
See what you
may.
see.
Yeah.
Sometimes the infiltration felt a little bit like it was, let's just goof about until we get caught, and then we fight and kill stuff, because that's what the game's really about. So I feel like that could have been more. I mean, I feel like in the first one, it was more open. It was not as much of a dungeon like the village, because we could really go
Yeah.
outside of it.
Hmm.
And I think that was a bonus for it in that respect. We were also not universally hated by everyone in the place, so
Yeah, I think that's the
Yeah.
problem though, is that Aslanti space in general is very restrictive to anything that's not
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
It was very dungeon-like.
I
Like,
could have potentially wanted a more relaxed timeline. It felt very much like we had to hurry because people were in prison and like they were researching
Yeah,
the root drive and
I
whatnot.
really wanted
And
to
and
go to the Dragon's Asteroid.
having
It just
having
never felt
the
appropriate.
potential of having more, even just like in the ship downtime moments of we're making French fries and talking about what to do next. It is moments I think that are good to have, particularly in a campaign that focuses on the journey, because it lets players explore their characters in casual time. Sometimes we've gone very much like a lot of combat in a session. The next session we're sort of going to a place, talking to an NPC, and then heading out. And the next session we're doing another like dungeon style. Which fun. I mean, lots of combat certainly for that, but sometimes I might have missed just Jacques Pierre in the
Yeah.
gym.
On that note, though, I not sure how much I can do about that. Like, I can be like, hey, you're traveling there. You've got like a few weeks. What do you do? I believe I
Yeah.
have done that at a couple
Yeah.
of points. Like,
I think it is down to us.
Those moments really have to come from you. I can't force you to have them.
Yeah, I think
No,
we
I
do
was
pretty well
mentioning
doing
that
it.
the campaign does not give a lot of opportunities in play to play because most play is undercover or like infiltrating bases.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking as well. That like when we go into Atlantis space, from then on, it's basically get a new destination, go in a new dungeon, mine whatever we can get.
Overall,
Yeah, I think that was because we were so worried that we were going to get caught, and yeah.
Yeah, but it's also just the setting, like
It
the
is.
campaign. Like, yeah, we're not gonna. There's this big,
I think,
death weapon.
I think that the Aslanti space is really interesting, and I'd love to explore it more, but it's just so difficult with anything non-human. Like,
Yeah, it's got to be an all-human party. Like,
yeah.
Playing Starfinder just to be all humans kind of feels like missing the
Like,
point.
what's the point? Yeah. It's like I felt somewhat restricted in I would love to have just fucked around on some Aslanti planet, but just to like sort of get into the Empire, but because we can't really hide an awakened bear or a cuttlefish in power armor, it's tough.
That actually makes me think of a question. Sheep, is there any like campaign contingency either in the book or that you had that involves like surely the Aslanti would be pissed if if anyone found out what they almost had and then that it was ripped away from them by Pact World's operatives. Is there any like scaling in which like where they come back for vengeance or do anything to sort of fuck with the PCs or the Pact Worlds afterwards? Because that would be kind of interesting.
So a big premise of the campaign is that the Aslanti Empire as a whole has no clue about this whole thing. It's this Sadat specifically who wants to hog the fame and fortune of having the rune drive, who has discovered it on Nacondas and wants it for himself. He is not working in the Empire's best interest for sure, more like a personal motivation for power and whatnot. And that's the whole reason why not the entire Empire, or a very small part of the Empire, is actually aware of the rune drive in the first place. Does the book have a contingency? Well, sort of. The fake inspector in Orlos, as written, was a real inspector. I think I mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And part of the...
I think your change to it was brilliant.
It was very funny.
Was that like literally after Manakai said, it would be really funny if this was another fake inspector? Did you just suddenly go, yes, has to be fake now?
No, I actually planned it that way.
That's hilarious.
That's even better.
That's better than you going, oh shit, that's a better idea, let's do that.
Yeah, the fake inspector wanted to steal the rune drive because he was hired by the dragon to do it.
Yeah, I figured.
That's pretty funny.
Coming back to the question, the book had a few suggestions on how to continue the campaign. One of them was more of the Empire actually figuring out that you do have the rune drive. One of the things about the rune drive, which I sort of decided to not have, was that it was directly connected to the Aeon throne.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I basically said it takes its energy from the mystical Aeon throne, but didn't elaborate on that. In the book, it also says the Aeon throne can always track down the rune drive if they are aware of its existence in the first place.
Yeah.
So the book suggested to escalate the fact that the Aslanti Empire would hear about it. The heroes, as in you, would likely want to bring it to the Pact Worlds and either use it for themselves or, find a way to destroy it perhaps, but that wasn't going to be easy. And yeah, if the Aslanti Empire as a whole got completely into tracking you down, that would have been bad times.
Man, you would have had to bring the rune drive to Mordor and throw it in. Well,
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is the
While being
center
pursued
of
by the
the
space
galaxy.
race. Yeah.
I think
Rune
overall-
Wraith Ship 1.
Actually, sorry, no, I'm being confused. Destroying the rune drive was, as written, the only option. Like, you had to use the rune drive to escape, which would have burned out the rune drive.
Oh,
I found that a bit stupid,
That
so
is
I
real.
gave you a choice.
like what the
It's
fuck?
I
Paizo
think
being
Paizo
like, we
wanted
don't know how to
protect the,
control our future modules if they.
Let us not
They
have
never-
time travel.
Yeah, the problem with time travel, it's a really cool concept. It fucks with you so quickly. And I don't know about you, Manikai, but I'm scarred. Like, on time travel, it's just... My heart
We done
can't go
time
on.
travel?
We've done
I
time
love
travel
time
in Forsaken Throne.
We did a lot of
mean,
things.
We
for-
did a...
for sa-
It was a lot of things happened. It was a
I'm
long.
The Second
God,
Throne in
okay.
general just seems to inspire a lot of PT.
It was a whole thing.
It was
Goddamn.
so much. Like,
I was very invested. I think you could say.
we were all very invested.
It was crazy, that's for sure. I'm not sure. I lost my train of thought. Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, more or less. It says,
Okay.
if you want to, here's a contingency.
Yeah.
I wanna say though that I think this campaign was better than the first one we tried. Of course, we didn't
What, Dead
complete that
Suns?
one. Yeah,
I think it worked. It
I-
flowed better, I think.
I think it was much more focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes you more able to make a character that fits to the campaign.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
The first campaign had the issue of like suggesting an introduction that just didn't work. Like, oh, you apply to the Starfinders, and then you basically run around and do anything but being a Starfinder.
Hmm.
oh
Whereas
god, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, this campaign was pretty much
It was like you were Starfinder adjacent in Dead Suns.
yeah, sort of.
Where this is more like, you're fucking going to a colony, dude. Just
Yeah, this campaign suggested, or like explicitly said, hey, everyone on this transport ship wants to visit Sedona. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the hook.
Yeah.
yeah. So I remember for creating Thaddeus, his whole reasoning behind going to Nakondis was literally just the person that has information is there. I don't give a shit about colony. I don't care what happens. All I want is some information. Just so happens that came around like session 12, but you know, that's the only reason he went. And I think that was
Shit,
I
the
mean,
person
more
who
than
has the
enough.
information isn't here.
Yeah.
To be fair, if a campaign starts with, hey, you really want to meet that person, you're not gonna meet that person for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that it brought a friendship together. It brought companionship in the pride, and you know what? It ended up being Thaddeus was helping out his buddies. Then he got information and like finished up and decided to go on a killing spree. So it all went well.
Yeah.
how was it?
Yeah.
How was it for you, Sheep? Like
Hmm.
DMing this
Yeah.
campaign? Like we made characters. You didn't have much of a say on them. What do you think of them? Was there a role in the party you would have missed, or like how did you like the dynamic, and how did you feel things played out with it?
I obviously like characters that were made and how they acted and such. Was there anything I missed? I'm sort of sad about the fact that there wasn't really a like sort of infiltrator-like character, like a con man sort of. That would have opened up a lot of interesting possibilities, other than to either go in there guns blazing or rely on Thaddeus of all people to
Hey
bluff.
man, I tried. All right, I had one charisma modifier, and like
I had
Two.
was,
two
He was
monsters.
a fluffer, but he was also a cuddlefish.
It's my fault for being a huge fucking bear that nobody likes. So.
Yeah, I mean, Valky's character was definitely geared to be able to do it, but it was like, oh shit, he's a large bear. He can't do it. It's Aslanti space.
On that note, I pretty much explicitly, to sort of give you an option to counter that
I know
problem, give you an item that not only disguises you but also can change your size to enable, let's say, large characters to look Aslanti, so they can use their superior social skills to talk to people, and then you send him in naked.
It's true.
Well, you know, Chip
was
needed
pretty
it more than
used
me.
it. To be honest, I found it hilarious that Thaddeus was the one bluffing and disguise checking. I think that was the greatest part, honestly. And the fact that I rolled like a 20 on a couple of them for no apparent reason, but my dice loved me. Yeah.
It was funny.
I think it was funnier.
And then what would we have done with Chip?
Exactly, Chip would have just had to...
Be a space Yusoki. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They literally are.
They are
everywhere.
literally everywhere. Well, you know what I'm somewhat bummed about? This is the second campaign, or second time we've been in Starfinder. We've still not seen space goblins.
Those were in the first campaign.
Were they? I don't remember space goblins.
They were.
They probably got killed by a pike very fast.
Yes.
The fucking pikes, man.
Oh, I seem to remember something about one of them like blowing himself up when opening a door.
Yes.
Oh,
Like
man.
one of them joined the
theirs?
party, sort of, and then started ahead and got blown out.
We made him open the stuff in the ship, yeah. And then he had made a trap that exploded him.
I think I wasn't there for that session.
Or did he get murdered by one of the
I think it was
Akatas?
machine gun that shot him. But
I will say,
yeah.
I do remember.
He died horribly.
I do remember the encounter right after that, where it was like a wire bridge or cable bridge from a ship to an asteroid, and then someone was sniping you while you were crossing that, and then it played with 0G and having to stay attached to the bridge and everything and doing range combat. I thought it was really cool. I was really interested in watching that.
That was kind of cool, yeah.
Sheep, I have a really important question. What happened to our good friend Zorb?
You know, he's still doing what he loves.
Screaming at people?
Yeah, he actually loves screaming at people, and he's also big into crotcheting.
Oh,
which is why he has a shop to fund that habit.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
See, this is the epilogue I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So
happened to Aeon Guard 92, who we knocked out.
on the contest, he got reformed and took a
eaten by
part-time
tiny
job at his
monkeys.
shop eventually.
Eaten by. Oh god. One question that
I'm sorry to have to do this, guys, but I must go. Life calls.
All right, that's
all
fine.
right, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Fortunate enough.
Thank you for joining us.
It's been
Yeah,
great.
I'll watch the rest of the banter recording.
Yep, still recording, buddy. I'll keep it up.
And what this time?
All right, buddy. Chat to you later. Take care.
Yeah, take
Take
care.
care, guys. Thank you for the amazing campaign. I look forward to the next.
Yeah.
Woo.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Brilliant.
And
Yeah, that
sorry,
that fight in 0G. That wasn't in the book, obviously.
Yeah.
Sarah has a
fucking like space
or,
death.
I mean,
I remember that bit.
sorry,
yeah, the
Liza
space
has a
death.
question for you, Sheep.
Yep.
My only question for Sheep about the campaign is, what would happen to the PC party if they had accepted the Dragon's deal? Yes, at the first meeting. I would like to know this, actually,
it's
because
really
I wanted to
interesting.
do this.
All got murdered.
But then we
Asking
shot
the
him.
real questions.
The deal was basically, hey, I'll give you this thing free of charge if you bring me the rune drive. We'll both win because you don't want the Aslanti to have the rune drive and I need the rune drive. Of course, what he didn't say is he wanted the rune drive to do all kinds of shenanigans. Well, he did say that, but he wanted to do those for good reasons. Figured that, surely you'll agree to him because he's awesome. He's a dragon, and you're just you don't matter. Had you accepted, he would have supported you, barely, and inevitably had asked for the rune drive. Had you given it to him, he would have done his thing, probably destroyed the current timeline, for the greater good, of course, and things would have ended up terribly.
All right.
In the end, you would have still won. The Aslanti Empire wouldn't have the rune drive, and for a while everything would have been fine, but
Never
for a
deal with a
while,
dragon.
never, yeah.
Well, we did deal with him to some degree.
I did consider
we
the
dealt with him.
possibility of changing his mind. Like, he was honest about his intentions. He wants to use the rune drive to undo the gap for the sole purpose of showing those bastards in the heavens that mortals should have a choice in their destiny. Which sounds like a noble goal, but of course the side effect would have been that the current universe sort of, never existed. So that's bad for everyone who currently exists.
So, what was his time? We guessed about this. What was his time? Were we right in that he came from the past into the future? Maybe then he was wounded, then he went back to.
Not exactly. He is from inside the gap. That's where he was born. He aged as dragons do, and then tried to travel back into the gap, which didn't work. That's one of his uses gone. Eventually, when you met him on Outpost Z, that was, well, shortly before he died, obviously. And then when you met him on Oros, so basically his timeline was, well, there's two. Time travel is difficult. Let me...
I hate time travel so much.
In the original timeline, you didn't kill him in Outpost Z because obviously he wasn't in Outpost Z. He worked together with the Aslanti because he heard about the rune drive and wanted to eventually get it. So he presented himself as what he was, which is a collector of exotic and old technology, which is exactly what the rune drive is. He helped the Sadat and eventually, of course, planned on taking the rune drive. Fast forward to a different version of Aurelos, pretty much, where you, of course, still the heroes as you are, forging our destiny, infiltrated, presumably were successful, and eventually faced the Sadat, except that was the time where the dragon decided he needs to take the rune drive now, or you're gonna run away with it. The Sadat, of course, didn't want the dragon to succeed, and ended up making it so that while you were successful in killing the Sadat, before that, the Sadat made sure that the dragon wouldn't be successful, because at the time the dragon was the bigger threat, so he dealt with the dragon first. Dragon mortally wounded, travels back to Outpost Z, or back into the past to Outpost Z. He has to hide in Outpost Z because the risk of paradox is there. He travels in the past to make sure that he can make the most out of his uses of time travel. Because if he sees that the current timeline isn't going to work out, he can send a message to his younger self in the same time as he currently is to try to finagle his own timeline that he succeeds. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. That is then the dragon you meet in Outpost Z on basically your next trip around the timeline.
Right.
He knows that he's gonna get backstabbed by the Aslanti, which he attempts to backstab. So he attempts another way to solve the issue completely and basically believes in his own belief so much that surely everyone else will believe the same thing. He tells you his intentions. Not exactly, wasn't received well. He, however, weakened as he is, gets killed by you. That's bad. but he saw that coming because he's a dragon and he's prepared. He has instructed Telmrin to always record his lair, because that's where he's going to meet people. If something goes wrong, that's where it'll be. If he gets killed, the recording gets sent to his younger self in the same timeline, who lives at the asteroid you've never ended up exploring.
Ah, okay.
So you kill him, the recording gets sent to him, he knows what's going on. So
this starts the paradoxical events that kind of affect Barnabas then, because he's
pretty
trying
much,
to manipulate what happens. Yeah, okay.
The Time Dragon was very much about keeping the timeline intact, but at that specific point he broke his own rules, so he can make sure to to continue following his goals, because those are more important than this tiny little paradox he caused.
Mm-hmm.
His current younger self then still has to get the rune drive. He knows that you will be successful and that he will fail if he tries to get it from the start otherwise. So he attempts to just hang back and let you take it out for him, and then he'll just grab it from you. So he hires the fake inspector. He also hires a mercenary cruiser, an Atlantean mercenary cruiser, to support this fake inspector, from which he will observe the proceedings to make sure that everything goes accordingly. Now enter the Inevitables, who see this messing with the timeline and are absolutely not okay with this, because that's their whole deal. The timeline is sacred. Anyone who messes with it needs to be stopped. So they show up and blow the shit out of his battlecruiser. He, again, pretty much at the exact time as before, gets pretty much mortally wounded, manages to talk to you in another attempt to get you to do the right thing eventually, and travels back into yet another timeline where he ends up at Outpost Z, licking his wounds. Now, time travel is a bitch. Because not only is time travel a bitch, there's also forces such as the Inevitables who want to make sure that everything always happens the same way. It's pretty much a final destination situation. He is basically never going to get past that point. There will always be either, be it luck or bad luck or inevitable intervention, that will make sure that he will always be trapped in his own loop. And sort of, in a sense, he will assist the same thing, because if in any point during his timeline he actually makes it past that point, that'll create a paradox. And he also wants to keep the timeline intact. So it's a very shitty situation for him.
So he has to be killed by us every time.
He has to be killed by
in every conceivable universe.
Because you killed him that one time at that spot, he always has to die at that spot, in roughly the same circumstance.
And in some universe, they just get it over with. Come on, fucking present my throat. Just do it. Can't be asked this.
He can't make it too obvious either, because that might change your actions.
Oh god,
it's basically a permanent loop of him sort of trying to still go for his goals, and the Inevitables messing it up. He's looped. He's stuck in a never-ending loop.
Yep.
Great.
Of course, it's not like him who's stuck, but him as like a concept of a character.
Right.
Because
yes.
of course, once he dies, he's dead.
Yeah, but the act of
But he tells
sending
the younger him.
messages back to his younger self, and that perpetuating, that it creates personal hell for whatever instance of him at the time there is. So
yeah,
that's great. And I know some people might be turned off by the logistical nightmare, but I really like time travel.
Don't kill the dragon, they said. No. Fuck that dragon. He betrayed us in the future.
I'm so happy.
Fuck the dragon. I mean,
so happy we killed him.
Yeah, the dragon wasn't an evil character. Like he doesn't betray people out of malice, and he would have absolutely betrayed you had you not given him the rune drive as he wanted. He does what he does because he thinks it's the right thing, and also because he thinks that mortals don't matter. Like, he's a dragon. He's not gonna care about what you think. He's just gonna take what he needs.
And then we killed him. Well, Thaddeus
And
gave
then
me the sword. So.
Yeah, the rest of us almost died. But you know.
We had pikes.
Let's be fair. Thaddeus, I think Thaddeus is the first character I made to be very good in combat. All my others have been like good, but he was very good.
yeah, I did enjoy how the interaction with the time dragon turned out. I didn't expect you to actually be able to kill him, like at that point, but it happened. Also, I do wonder whether you would have been as convinced that you had to kill him had the inevitable not attacked you. The entire point of that inevitable attacking you was to make you believe that what the dragon is doing is bad.
Yeah.
It worked.
Like, the inevitable was
Yeah.
never supposed to actually kill you. It's just, hey, if one of those guys wants to kill us because we might deal with the dragon, we're not going to deal with the dragon. Mission success.
I feel like that was a definite bias there after that. Like what I was proposing was, yeah, give us a rune drive, help us, and then we kill him. But you know, I guess killing straight away worked, so that
He's
actually
wounded.
worked for the better.
We were going to have to fight him eventually because he wanted something we wanted. Like our goals were incompatible. And so, to me and by extension, Check Pierre, it was, well, he can, like, if we both know we're going to betray one another, like, and that was going to be obvious. Like, he wasn't going to trust us, we weren't going to trust him. We could work together a little bit, but at some point, someone's going to go down. Check Pierre didn't think we would have a better chance than now because the dragon would prepare a lot. And we would be busy running about the universe doing all sorts of shit. So basically, the dragon would prepare to betray us while we would do the dirty work, and then we'd be betrayed and lose. And unless the dragon was dumb and somehow was like, I'll just wait for you guys to betray me, it'll be great, I'll stay wounded.
Well, there was not much he could do too much because it would upset things.
No, we didn't know that. At least I didn't.
But you know, it worked out for the better. I think Barnabas's reservations were more like he's fully willing to get himself killed. He was not willing to make a decision to get everyone else killed because, yes, like he was dangerous, but it was a dragon and it wasn't a small foe.
I feel like I
and,
made a
you know,
lot of those decisions as well.
The Aslanti Empire was no small foe. The Aslanti Empire was. Yeah.
But
Besides, it's just activating as a player to get to kick the dragon. Like I played in fucking all these names.
We've played
13
in many things, man.
Yeah, and I with Jonas got to just double necromancer that dragon.
Yeah, Emerson.
And you know what? It was a Hail Mary. We're probably dead, but you know what? We don't give in to fate. We fight it instead, and we murdered that dragon.
I ended up watching
Like
that session.
humiliated that dragon, and that was great.
It made
You
for a
feel
great
like you're
follow-up
telling the
story.
world to go fuck itself. Right?
I mean, in that spot, just like with the time dragon here, I sort of meant to introduce the character as a like nuisance, like recurring villain and whatnot.
I will be a problem in the future, and the players go, "No, you will not." We'll
And
deal
now
with it right here, right.
twice it hasn't worked.
Well,
We're
it
quite.
is kind of like naming the guy Sneaky Advisor.
Yeah.
Like, I know this guy'll be a fucking issue. He's weakened right now. Let's take him down. Get rid of him.
True.
Nobody wants to deal with a time traveling dragon constantly whizzing
Nobody.
about, attacking you.
Hard to keep track of. Fucking time travel dragons. God damn it. Because the problem with them is that you can kill them, but that could be the last instance of them, but it's in like
Well, it will
the
be.
past and like it
Kill him
is,
whenever
but
you
it's
meet him, and then you sort of cut those timelines into threads.
Yeah,
Until
it
the
was
inevitables come for you, because now you're messing up the time flow.
exactly. Yeah.
Can't kill the time dragon because it has to be
I mean,
at a different place too.
Time dragons are interesting because they can only time travel 3 times ever.
yeah.
But of course, they are also smart. So
They go back and tell themselves when to
exactly, yeah.
which lets them basically have infinite tries at making a world that works out for them.
Yeah.
I think the best thing coming out of that was the actual picture you showed us of the time dragon with the hour. That was
Great looking dragon.
I want that, like, I want a poster of that dragon.
Yeah, that was where I got the inspiration. Although the actual thing the book suggested was honestly a bit bullshit.
Oh.
Like the whole thing was, after you come back to the Pact Worlds by using and inevitably burning out the rune drive, you notice that nobody recognizes you. Everything seems the same but slightly different, and it'll eventually turn out that it was a time dragon who had another super powerful artifact. Has decided to mess with you because he's angry that you destroyed the rune drive.
Nice player choice. Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, it just happens out of the blue, basically.
Yeah, that's not great.
And the solution is to repeatedly find him in your own past as he meddles with it and fight him like 5 times and steal his artifact and throw it into the same black hole 3 times, after which it'll turn up in a random spot in the universe.
What?
If you think that this time travel was a mess, that would have been a mess.
That's Chromie level of weirdness. All right. Yeah. No, that sounds weird. That sounds like a weird suggestion. Like everything else seems fine, and then they come out with that. That's definitely.
No, what I attempted to set up was basically something around the gap and something not involving good versus evil, but rather law versus chaos.
Yeah.
Because that's something you can really think about. Like on the one hand, you would say law, yeah, order. But then you think about like Mechanus and the Inevitables who want like everything in perfect squares or whatever. And on the other hand, you have chaotic things like, I believe Desna is chaotic neutral, like explorers and all those things. But then you also have like demons on the side of chaos who would also be opposed to the Inevitables, which would make weird allies. So that seemed interesting. So I sort of went in that direction.
I think it was a good. It turned out really well.
There will probably not be any more time travel in future campaign.
I feel like the questionnaire, everyone except me said no.
Might not already have been.
The problem is
what I generally request is that you don't consider your experiences from past campaigns when thinking about these topics.
Yeah.
I think I can do a lot of things differently to the point where they might actually be fun. That sounds more mean than I meant that to sound. Wow.
No, it's more your experiences
Get shit on,
you can
Dark.
shape the experience to
No,
not be
that-
the same about
I'm
the same
joking,
subject.
I'm
No, I get what you're going. I see the
Yeah,
positive spin.
yeah.
Don't worry, Sheep.
I was just joking.
Yeah. All good.
DDS spun a wonderful campaign world that went to extremes too liberally.
In every direction. We literally had a rock fall on us and killed us. Like, well, we didn't all die, but
I mean, those things happen. So
a campaign was something. And to be fair, the time travel wasn't really all that bad. It was just, it took a while for us all to process it, especially as it sort of culminated down to a point where everything was, I think the world was literally breaking apart, and the Inevitables came in and was like, bro, we're undoing this now.
Yes.
Don't redo this. And we were
One
like,
did a
okay.
thing and the world was gone.
Yeah, I think we tried to break a crystal of one of the Emperor's.
Yeah, it was
a
like
thing.
hitting one Imperial arm onto another one. We didn't
Yeah.
do it. Not us, it was the Empress.
It was the Empress, yeah. Which Raphael was banging at the time, let's be honest.
At the time, I thought that was a little later.
Nah, I think it
maybe
was
I was just
during
not
that
into
time. I think that was during the courtship period.
But you know, that happened. That was the whole thing.
So I think I'm just a little like, I suppose Dark did take it a bit crazy, but I'm a bit scared of it
The
now.
Second Throne. It was
It's hard to
crazy.
It
but
was
it was
an experience.
great. It was the highest powered thing I've.
Well, I mean, yeah, I literally used a wish scroll.
So much
for
of the
fun.
campaign was like half of all things I did was just between me and Jake and Dark.
Yeah.
And the Wolstenberg Corporation.
Yeah, I had many
And
things like that.
as soon as I discovered what anyone else was doing, I was like, oh shit, what the fuck? Raphael's making an anti-me sword?
Yeah, it was.
Why would he
literally
need that? I was like, Jake, he's already like parrying Red Dragon. He could kill all of us just if he wanted to. We should build a golem. Like, no, we should build the golem. And then we did. Then Raphael was like, well, you're building a golem?
Yeah, and then I think he made himself so that he could counter the golem by the end.
He tried, but then someone stole the golem, and I went, well, that's not ever. No, we cannot win that.
My God, it was just.
Why did you make it? No, there's no way. And I was like, we should make it intelligent. And Jake said, no.
And
I
I
said,
think
no, you not make the golem intelligent. It will rule the world as a tyrant.
Yeah, and I think I literally became a dragon for part of an episode as my dragon knight, and that was a thing.
You did.
Actually, I
a
did.
soul tree, you can kill anyone by breaking the fruits. Man, it was. Oh,
There was a lot.
Crazy campaign.
Man.
But I think it was a great campaign, but I'm still feeling the effects, and I wasn't even part of it.
I know. You get like third-party accounts of it, and it's. Oh,
we had to kill Rith.
Well, you didn't even kill her. She just died like a nobody in the streets.
Forever and made her live life.
Literally died a nobody in the streets.
But you know what? It was a mercy.
It was. She really should have been
the
killed.
hammer to the back of the head.
She should have been killed. Really should have been killed. Let's be honest. I think I made Jonas cry in that episode. I think I definitely made Tina cry in that. God.
Anyway, sounds like we're done with Against the Aeon Throne.
We
I
are
think
done.
so. Yeah.
Which means we could.
We can talk about our other thing.
Talk about new things.
I'm going to stop the epilogue recording at this point because it shouldn't be tainted with our talking of anything else. So
no more taint.
No tainting.
That's a little late.
It's true. So I am going to stop the recording here. Thank you all who for continuing to watch Against the Aeon Throne. You're still with us.
You all did so fantastically with these epilogues, by the way. Just want to say that.
Incredibly.
Yeah, there's a little back padding here. I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing some of them.
Well, I'll put it up.
Sure, you did great.
I'll start putting it up now. It's only 2 hours long, so.
Yeah.
So, thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, now that's over. The stream is still going, because I've spoken to Azakawa already about this. Because, and here's an important thing, Azakawa is a very frequent participant in our streams. He's pretty much always here.
Shout out to Azakawa.
Shout out to Azakawa. So I think he deserved to have a sneak peek. I gave him a sneak peek at my character. and gave him an idea of what's going to happen.
Sneak preview.
Exactly. Obviously, we have no idea really what's going to happen because we've just
Still haven't
made
finished
shit up.
talking about it.
Literally made shit up. And that's the beautiful thing about it. But I want to say to anybody who's actually in the stream at this point, I believe, let me check. Yeah, in the stream info, there is a Discord link